Have you ever wanted to craft something warm and cozy with your own two hands? Knitting is the perfect way to create beautiful handmade items. And today I'm going to show you just how easy it is to get started. Whether you want to craft a scarf for a chilly day or knit a blanket for a new baby in the family, by the end of this video you'll have all the basics down to start your first knitting project. There are many different sizes of yarn and needles, but today we are going to use a medium weight yarn. It's a worsted weight. And we're going to use a medium size needle, which is the size 7 US needle, and that's 4.5 millimeters. I'm using a circular needle, but we're going to knit back and forth. We're not going to be going around in a circle. The first thing we need to do is cast on stitches. We're going to use the long tail method of casting on stitches, which is really the most common. We're going to cast on 20 stitches, and that's putting the yarn on the needle so that we can start knitting. You'll need about an inch of yarn for each stitch. So we're going to have this tail starting here and going to here, and that's why it's called a long tail. First off, we need to make our first stitch, which we're going to make with the slip knot. Slip knot, I wrap it around my index finger so you can see the yarn that's attached to the ball of yarn goes over the tail, and then I'm going to bring it around to the back and pull a loop through. That loop will go on our needle, and that is going to be our first stitch. That needle and the first stitch is going to be held in my right hand. Then I'm going to grab both the tail and the yarn connected to the ball of yarn, and I'm going to hold them with my bottom 3 fingers, and I'm going to stick my index finger and my thumb through that loop, through that area between the needle and my hand. Now I take my needle and I grab the yarn on the outside of my thumb. I come around and I grab the yarn on my index finger, and then this loop that is on my thumb comes over the top and pulls through. We're going to do this over and over again until we get 20 stitches on the needle. Now, I will say this part of the process is something that you do once at the beginning of your project, and then you don't do it again until you start a new project. You will have to learn how to do this a few times before you really get it down in your head. Whereas the actual knitting that you do over and over again through your project, that will get into your brain a lot faster. So here we'll start another stitch. We're grabbing onto both yarns, sticking my index finger and my thumb through the middle, pull it out, and this is called a slingshot position. Okay, so we're in the slingshot. Boy, that's difficult to say. We're in the slingshot position. We bring the needle tip around the outside of the yarn on my thumb and grab it. Then the inside of the yarn on my index finger, and my thumb comes over the top of the point, and then I just drop my thumb out and I can pull the yarn. You may have to reposition between each stitch, and that's okay. So here we are again, under the yarn on my thumb, around the yarn on my index finger, my thumb comes over the top, and there we've got 4 stitches. Around the yarn on my thumb, grab my index finger, my thumb comes over the point of the needle, drop my thumb out, and pull it. When you pull, you want it to be snug. You don't want loose stitches on your needle, but you also don't want super tight stitches on your needle. So don't just yank it with all your might. Just keep it till it's snug, but not tight. Again, grabbing the yarn on the outside of my thumb, the inside of my index finger, my thumb comes over the point of the needle, drop your thumb out, and pull. Just do this again and again until we have 20 stitches. I'll pull a little more yarn off of my ball so I have some slack. Again, we're grabbing both yarns, sticking your index finger and your thumb through those strands of yarn. Flip your hand back, come around and grab the yarn on your thumb, around the yarn on your index finger, and then your thumb just naturally comes over the top, and you pull that till it's snug. You'll get to the point where you can do this fairly quickly. But it does take some practice. If you have to do it more than once, please don't feel bad, because that's just part of the learning practice. I'm going to count and see how many we have. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. So I'm going to do 5 more so that we have 20 stitches on our needle. 4 and 5. Okay, we've got 20 stitches on our needle. Now we're going to flip the needle around so that we're holding it with our left hand. This is the tail. We don't want to knit with that, and I'm going to just kind of push that over to the side. This is the yarn we'll be using to knit. Now with the other end of my circular needle, or if you're using straight needles, your needle that does not have any stitches on it, we're going to insert the needle from the left to the right in the front of the loop that is on the left-hand needle. So we insert it, we'll take the yarn around the back of the right needle and over the top, and you hold on to that yarn as you pull that loop through the loop that's on your left needle, and then you slide it off. So you insert from the front, come around the back and over the top of the right needle, pull it through and slip it off. That is the knit stitch. Insert, wrap it around, pull it through and off. Insert, wrap it around, pull it through, slide it off. Here is a little saying that I often use when I'm teaching children, but we go in through the front door, run around the back, out through the window, off jumps Jack. In through the front door, run around the back, out through the window, off jumps Jack. Or insert through the front, come around the back and wrap it around. Now you kind of hold on to that yarn while you pull your right needle through. And I actually keep contact with my left needle as I pull it through to avoid losing that stitch, and then slide it off the left needle. what we're essentially doing is creating a loop and pulling that loop through the stitch that's on the left needle. Knitting is just a series of loops. We'll get to the end of these 20 stitches, and then we're going to take all these stitches that are on the right needle, giving myself some extra slack again, and we'll just take that needle and put it in our left hand, and we'll start again. Okay, in through the front, wrap it around the back and over the top, come through the needle, come through the loop, and then this loop on the left needle slides off. We're almost to the end of our 20 stitches. I wrap the yarn around my ring finger and over the top of my index finger, but you don't have to do that. You can just hold on to it, especially while you're learning. Hold on to it and wrap it around. Okay, our last stitch. And now all of the stitches are on our right needle. So we'll transfer that back to our left hand, and now we've got an empty needle for our right hand. And we just start again. We're going to do this over and over again till we get a few inches of work done. In through the front, wrap around the back, come through with the right needle, touching the point of the right needle to the left needle the whole time, and then slipping it off. This is the knit stitch. Now pause the video and knit 10 or 11 or 12 or 20 rows, and then we'll come back and I'll show you how to take the knitting off the needle. That's called binding off. I will include links down below in the show notes about where you can get some yarn and needles that you can just order online, or I also encourage you to visit a local yarn store and tell them you need worsted weight yarn and size 7 needles. You can get straight needles, and a lot of people start with those, but as you progress in your knitting journey, you're going to gravitate to circular needles because they're just quite a bit more functional. You can knit straight, you can knit in a circle, you can knit using a method called magic loop. And I just think that eventually circular needles are the better investment because you can use them for so many different things. Going to continue knitting a few more rows and then we'll bind off. Okay, we've got some fabric here, and now we are going to bind off, which means taking the knitting off the needles. It's a pretty simple process, a little more straightforward than casting on. What we're going to do is knit the first 2 stitches of the row. So we've got those 2 stitches on our right hand needle. With our left needle, we're going to pick up the first stitch that we knit. So we just go in from the left to the right, and we're going to pull that up and over the top of the other stitch and the needle, and then drop it off. That is 1 stitch bound off. We'll never have more than 2 stitches on our right hand needle, so we're knitting another one. We'll go to the back stitch, insert our needle left to right, pull it over the top, 2 stitches bound off. We continue all across the row this way until there is 1 stitch left. Remember, never any more than 2 stitches on your right hand needle. Now when you're doing this, try and do it loosely. It's very easy to bind off and be tighter than the rest of your knitting. So concentrate on just being loose as you're doing it. Sometimes people actually use a larger needle when they bind off if they have a problem with always having too tight of a bind off. So that is a hint for the future. I just tend to think loose while I'm binding off. It can't be, I guess there is a possibility that it could be too loose, but that's very uncommon. We'll continue across the row until we get them all bound off by knitting 1 stitch. Then you have 2 on your right needle. Pick it up and over the top. A few more to go, and we'll wait until we get 1 stitch left on the needle. Then we're going to need a pair of scissors, which I don't have right by me, so I'm going to just have to go grab that very quickly so I can show you the last step. Okay, we've got them all off except for the last stitch. You want to leave about 6 or 7 inches so you have plenty of yarn that you can weave in your ends when you're done with a tapestry needle. And I'll show you that later. But for today, we're just going to pull this loop up so it's larger, being careful not to pull it all the way out, and then we take this tail and we just run it through that stitch and pull till it's snug. You have knit your first piece. Congratulations! You've taken your first step into the world of knitting. Every master was once a beginner, so just keep practicing and come back to the video anytime you need a refresher. If you enjoyed today's tutorial and like what you learned, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Let me know in comments what you're knitting or what you'd like your next project to be, or if there's anything else you'd like to learn. Happy knitting!